Is it data or data? Either way, as people, we all represent some form of it. The problem, though, is not just collecting it, but parsing through it, because it oftentimes gets made to be much harder than it has to be. So, let's talk about it. Welcome to Outsider Information. I am your host, Brandon, and your strategic partner here with OIAS. As always, if anything resonates, give a like, subscribe, engage, not just here, social media, give the website a little look and a couple of clicks. It's a good time. Drink of the episode. Shocker, it's tea. But instead of a blend that I have crafted myself, I was at a conference, and this particular crowd always has tea in addition to coffee. So, me being an opportunist, snagged a couple of bags. This one fits the fall theme. It is the first day of fall with an orange spice. Not always my go-to, but today it works. We are gonna make it happen. All right. We are weaving something new into the episodes at the beginning, and it's story time because good exploration happens through good storytelling. And when we look at what we are talking about today, data, surveys, information, I do have something that is topical that fits to this. So at one of the stops I was at, and I've played around with data, metrics, information, really my entire career, and especially with what I do now, we were dealing with a lot of challenges coming directly out of COVID. And when we were coming out of COVID, a lot of those issues pertained to staffing. And I think we're seeing that a lot now with a lot of staff expressing dissatisfaction or expressing challenges as a result of those dissatisfactions. When surveys are often created by a company or through an external entity, there's typically a lien, and we're going to get into a lot of this. But when a survey is created by somebody just trying to get the information, a lot of good things can happen. In our case, we were one branch. We made the survey as a unit, like our team made the survey, and we had people in our branch take it. Well, because we were a relatively large entity, word got around. And after 3 days, I want to say we had 200 responses from the entire company, not just our specific branch within it. And word got around, and it went up the food chain. And not everybody was happy because the survey was very well crafted. It got the information. It put what people were saying to each other out there, and it forced people to deal with it. Now, we got shut down. They ended up telling us to no longer send the survey out, which we actually weren't. People were sending it out on our behalf because, again, it made people feel like they were participating and contributing to something that was actually going to help make a difference. And that is ultimately what a survey should do. So while upper management shut us down, and technically I was part of management, I'm just really pro-employee, it showed the power of the collective and what you can do if you properly structure a survey and what can ultimately happen if the information is used for a good purpose. So that is that story. From a researcher's perspective, a survey is really the easiest tool to get information. If you have a well-crafted survey, you're going to get so much out of it. See the last episode about demographic and psychographic information? A survey is going to probably blend some element of both. You're going to get good, substantial data that you are going to be able to use for whatever it is you are studying, trying to publish, or ultimately just archiving as you study trends and patterns down the road. Ask yourself this, though. When you are creating a survey, what exactly do you want to get out of it? Because that's going to be really important. What you are trying to get out of that survey is going to essentially shape everything that goes into creating it. So that is the first piece. As great as surveys are, there are barriers, though, to data collection. And I see this really frequently in all aspects: academia, business, just people doing market research. We live in an era where it should be really easy, but we make it very hard on people, and we make it very hard on ourselves who create the surveys. A good survey is subjective, but a good survey is also about getting enough information, not all of it. Now, what does that mean? Whenever you get information, it's probably going to be used for some sort of a project, research, whatever it is. All that's supposed to evolve. Data that you accrue today is not going to be as valuable tomorrow. And when surveys can get long and complicated and you're trying to get everything to cover all your bases, you can sometimes alienate the group of people you are attempting to target. You've also got IRB and ethical considerations that you have to factor in too on the researcher side that can sometimes complicate things. Now, from everybody else's side, there's general mistrust, the biggest of which is people really saying that surveys are never really anonymous. Okay, to push back on that slightly, correct, right? Everything can be traced. And if you are putting something in there that could be potentially harmful, illegal, threatening, compromising, yeah, then they can always trace it back to one particular individual. Good surveys, though, really do protect the participants with very little identifying information. Going back to the survey that we built in the organization with our team and sent out, there was zero identifying information outside of maybe the department that somebody worked in, how long that they've been working there, and what was that last piece? That last one was spacing on me, right? It's been a while. But there are ways to protect individuals from being outed. And if you do it the right way, you are going to get really good information because people are going to trust that they're not going to be compromised. The other piece, the lack of incentive, right? When you are asking somebody to do something, shouldn't just be for free or in a vacuum. There should be something. And this could be as little as giving them a piece of candy for completion. When I have done things at schools, high school specifically, colleges, people are motivated by food. Simple. Like, that's all of us. If you throw some fruit snacks at them, they'll probably do it. But if we're going to go bigger on the scale, there needs to be something that actually gets somebody to fill out the survey. You could win a $25 gift card. You could be entered in for this. You could get a free membership. Whatever it is, attach something that's low risk, not just for you, but an easy point of entry that resonates with the demographic of people that you are trying to connect with. There's no meaningful follow-up. That also is somewhat problematic, right? It sounds basic. It sounds like, why would that be important? It is important, right? People are volunteering their time. People want to see where it goes, right? People are curious. If people are going to give you their opinion, they want some sort of a result that they can turn to. And when you think about it, that's human nature, right? You complete something, you follow through with something, you want to see where it goes. There should be a transaction, but it's not transactional, if that makes sense. So what is the fix? Now, I will go back and say there's no one way to do it, but I go back to asking you, what is the story that you want to tell? The data tells the story. The survey should not be telling the story to the person giving you the data. Many times you can feel the lean in a particular survey, right? Political, those types of things. We typically know who's putting it out there, and it's geared towards a particular demographic to get that information. Again, this can be alienating, and it can sometimes skew the statistics. If you're trying to get a true picture of something, you want to make sure that it's relatively neutral so that people feel like that they are giving their opinion to an entity that's going to use it properly. I've been saying this for a while. If you ask somebody a question, the likelihood that you're going to get an answer, probably close to 100%. It's just, what is that answer going to be? People will share information with you if they feel like it's going to be used properly. Product reviews are a great example. Now, people will more likely share if they didn't like something than if they like something, but that also shows that there is precedent for something like this. People are willing to give information about things that they deem important to them. And if you ask the right questions, you're going to get a really good subset of information. The other thing is accessibility matters. The big mistake is made, honestly, because of our digital landscape. And again, we live in an era where it should be the easiest ever, but we're really overburdened. I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago about communication, about why it feels so difficult to respond to emails, text messages. You can read that if you like, but because we're so overburdened and we're so overstimulated with technology, getting a text message to fill out a survey, what's the threshold? Getting one in an email, okay, we're just gonna look at it and ignore it. The reason why polling is off in so many political polls, so the reason why political polling is so off, it's generational. They are calling, they are texting, they are communicating with people in a time where there is little threshold for communication. Also, really anyone under 30 doesn't answer their phone. So polls are off because there is a massive mistake made in how they are trying to reach the people. Spammy texts, right? I think we could all look in our spam folder and see an archive of at least 20, 50, maybe more. Speaking of that, I probably should delete all those. I try to do that once every 2 weeks. And then asking for data outside of an event rather than real time. That is probably the biggest mistake I see people make all the time. I spend a lot of my time at different events, business, social, otherwise, and a lot of these organizations that put on these showcases, they always send a survey after the fact. I would argue that you should have somebody going around with an iPad getting that information in real time, a QR code so that people can do it on their phones. If you get it in real time, it's fresh in people's minds and they are having the experience that they are having in that moment, not having to remember, oh, well, I like this specifically or this. People's lives move way too quick for that. As soon as people leave something, they are on to the next, whether that's work, whether that's life, whether that's hobbies. They are going to go do whatever is next because that is just how things progress. Make it an exchange or a chance to get something back. That goes back to the transaction versus transactional. And be transparent about your data. That is really how all of this goes. Okay? If you're able to do those things, you're going to be able to get good information back. When I do survey work with different partners, I try my best to make it more simple and I try my best to make it open-ended. It needs to be approachable. That is the key that I think I'm going for here. People want to feel like they're included or that they know the topic. When you are asking people's opinions for stuff, they are giving you an opinion based off of their knowledge base, and you want to make that as simple as possible, not because people can't handle it, but you are trying to expand your reach. You're trying to expand the number of people who are willing to engage with what it is you are trying to do. Personally, I would say 10 questions max, right? How much information are you trying to get, and can you get more of it? You can always get more of it if you need more, but get what you need initially to set the groundwork for whatever it is you're doing, right? Leave it open for optional follow-up, right? Don't mandate that people include contact information. It feels intrusive. It's going to make a lot of people click away from that survey or information. If you leave it at the end and ask people would they be willing to, you'd be surprised how many would. But if you don't give them that choice, they're going to probably feel resentful and not want to communicate with you even further. The loop, right? And I did a different article that is on LinkedIn about the different loops of communication. This loop is education, engagement, invitation, right? Educate people on what it is you're doing. Engage them with that survey and then invite them to participate afterwards. That is a successful loop as it relates to conducting surveys. And then ultimately produce your findings. Again, that meaningful follow-up, that ability for people to see this is where it went and this is what it's going to be used for. The complicated part is what you end up finding, right? What I said earlier is if you ask somebody a question, the likelihood you're going to get an answer close to 100%. It's just what is that answer you're going to get? If the data that you accrued, it shows something different, there is still an obligation to report it. Again, the survey is not telling the story, the data is. And by not sharing it because it doesn't fit what you thought it was going to be, you're building more distrust. And if the data is unusable for your project, you can do a separate write-up that uses it to validate the time that other people contributed to what it is you were trying to achieve. Again, this all sounds really simple, and a lot of people make surveys and try to do it their own way. You'd be surprised how often it fails because there is a lot of nuance to it. It is a true tool of social science that blends demographic and psychographic data that paints a picture of a group of people who are using a product, living in a specific area, or maybe even wanting to explore something deeper than that. And this isn't a pitch, but I get hired to do things like that because not only is it crafting the survey, but it's then parsing through the data and the information. It can get complicated. And when you are looking at what that data is telling you, you really have to sift through it to identify if you've got outliers, patterns, or trends, all of which represent different pieces of what that data set can show. And they can all represent positives, negatives, or things to ignore. But you really have to be skilled in what you see and look at every little thing, because the thing that you skip could be the thing that ends up being the most important 6 months, a year, 5 years from now. And it all would have started with that one seemingly insignificant piece that you ignored as you were parsing through everything. We're about to get out of here. But knowing that, I will briefly make a subtle plea. If you have an opportunity to chime into anyone's research because you fit those demographics, please do. Research, it relies on participation, and it's generally used for good purposes. Not every survey is going to be geared to you, but if one is, let your voice be heard. Again, it helps us as researchers kind of move things forward, and there really is no bad data if you get it inside of the pool. You just have to sift through a little bit more. For those who are accruing the data, my recommendation would be public facing. That person that you connect with, whether it be at a social event, even the grocery store, if they fit, ask them if they want to take it. More often than not, they probably will, especially if they're on the work day. I'm telling you this because I've done it. They'll happily disconnect from whatever it is they're doing to jump on their phone for 5 minutes to take a quick survey to contribute to it. And if you see these people regularly, that built-in follow-up is done right away. Relying on one method to just find people, really not the best strategy, and it can be maddening because there are a ton of people out there. We are all individual data sets that could contribute to whatever it is you are trying to build. All right, well, more tea. As always, I cannot save the world, but I'm going to do my best to not make it a worse place. So if anything resonates, give a like, subscribe, and engage. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.